Pol Pot was one of the most brutal leaders in modern history. His vision to turn Cambodia into a purely agrarian society resulted in the deaths of up to 2 million people in just 4 years. His regime was marked by forced labor, starvation, and mass executions. In this video, we'll explore how Pol Pot rose to power, the terrible things he did to his people, and how his fall finally came about. Pol Pot, born Saloth Sa in 1925, seemed like an ordinary boy growing up in a farming family in Cambodia. However, his path changed drastically when he moved to France to study in the late 1940s. There, he was introduced to Marxist ideas and became deeply influenced by communism. Upon returning to Cambodia, Pol Pot joined a growing communist movement. The 1960s were a time of upheaval in Cambodia, as political instability and the effects of the Vietnam War weakened the government. By 1963, Pol Pot had become the leader of the Khmer Rouge, a communist guerrilla group determined to overthrow the existing government and remake Cambodia according to his radical vision. In 1975, the Khmer Rouge finally took control of the capital, Phnom Penh. The regime immediately began to reshape Cambodia, and Pol Pot's rise to absolute power had begun. Once Pol Pot was in power, his plans for Cambodia were extreme and brutal. He wanted to create a pure agrarian society, free of modern influence. In Pol Pot's mind, this meant destroying Cambodia's cities, closing schools and hospitals, and eliminating intellectuals. He declared it Year Zero, a complete reset of society. Pol Pot believed that urban life, education, and any connection to Western culture were corrupting the people. As a result, millions of Cambodians were forced to abandon their homes and march into the countryside to work on collective farms. These evacuations were sudden and chaotic, and many people died from exhaustion and disease along the way. Under Pol Pot's rule, Cambodia became a land of terror. The Khmer Rouge targeted anyone who was educated or suspected of being against the regime. Wearing glasses, speaking a foreign language, or even having soft hands, a sign you hadn't done hard labor, could get you killed. One of the worst atrocities of his regime was the creation of the killing fields, large areas of land where mass executions took place. People were brutally murdered with axes, hammers, and knives, as bullets were considered too expensive. Victims included intellectuals, professionals, ethnic minorities, and even children. These fields became a symbol of the sheer horror of Pol Pot's rule. It's estimated that over 1 million people were executed in the killing fields alone. Another symbol of Pol Pot's brutality was the S-21 prison, also known as Tuol Sleng. This was a former school that had been turned into a torture center. Thousands of Cambodians, including women and children, were imprisoned there, tortured until they confessed to imaginary crimes and then executed. Of the estimated 17,000 people who entered S-21, only a handful survived. But mass executions were only part of the horror. Pol Pot's forced labor camps were another form of cruelty. Entire families, including the elderly and children, were forced to work in rice fields for long hours with almost no food. Starvation, disease, and overwork claimed the lives of millions. People were forbidden from growing their own food, even if they were starving, and anyone caught taking a single grain of rice could be killed. Life under Pol Pot was a constant struggle for survival. Families were torn apart, and the traditional structure of Cambodian society was shattered. Children were often separated from their parents and brainwashed to spy on adults. Trust was replaced with fear. By 1978, Pol Pot's regime was crumbling. His policies had devastated Cambodia, and his aggressive actions towards neighboring Vietnam finally brought outside intervention. In December 1978, after several border attacks, Vietnam launched a full-scale invasion of Cambodia. Within weeks, Vietnamese forces overran Phnom Penh, and Pol Pot's rule came to an end. He fled into the jungle with a small group of loyal followers, where he would remain for many years, continuing to fight a guerrilla war. Although Pol Pot's regime was officially over, he continued to evade capture. He led a weakened Khmer Rouge faction from his jungle hideout along the Thai border. It wasn't until 1997 that internal strife led to his capture by his own followers, who placed him under house arrest. In 1998, Pol Pot died in his sleep at the age of 72, never having faced trial for his crimes. Some believe his people may have poisoned him, but the truth remains unclear. Although Pol Pot is gone, the impact of his brutal reign still haunts Cambodia today. The country is still recovering from the destruction of its culture, economy and population. Pol Pot's vision of a perfect agrarian society brought nothing but misery and death to Cambodia. His radical ideas led to one of the worst genocides in human history, with over 2 million people losing their lives. His fall was inevitable, but the scars he left on Cambodia will remain for generations. Let us know what is the worst villain in history for you, and we will make a video about it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to help us. Thank you for watching.